2025 NBA trade deadline just got even spicier when Shams broke the news yesterday that the Sacramento Kings are expected to open up talks to potentially deal All-Star De'Aaron Fox ahead of February 6th trade deadline. He also mentions that there's going to be plenty of suitors, but it's believed that Fox has a target destination in mind ahead of his 2026 NBA free agency, and a lot of people are speculating that that is going to be the San Antonio Spurs. But it's also come out that the Sacramento Kings are going to be open to dialogues throughout multiple teams across this NBA deadline or maybe in the off season. And I just want to break this all down because I think this is so much more exciting than everything that's going on with Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler is going to be a potential free agent at the end of the year. He is 35 years old and doesn't have many good years left. And the Phoenix Suns, the team that wants Jimmy Butler the most, probably can't even trade for him because the matching salary Bradley Beal is someone that has a no trade clause. So De'Aaron Fox opens up so many fun destinations and so many big possibilities that could happen. So I'm going to break this all down, even some sleeper teams that I think should get involved in De'Aaron Fox, because he could definitely change the course of where your franchise is headed going forward. So it's kind of crazy to say, but this is year 8 for De'Aaron Fox, as he was the 5th overall pick in the 2017 NBA draft by the Sacramento Kings. And for a Sacramento Kings team that has drafted so many busts since they drafted DeMarcus Cousins back in the 2010 draft, Ben McLemore, Nick Stauskas, Thomas Robinson, Marvin Bagley, the list goes on and on. De'Aaron Fox is one of, and maybe the best Sacramento King either since DeMarcus Cousins or maybe even back longer than that. So this is a big deal for Sacramento to move him, because these reports came out back in December when Rich Paul met with the Sacramento Kings front office that De'Aaron Fox is kind of unhappy where this direction is going. He already turned down a contract extension in the offseason, and all eyes are on his 2026 free agency period. So Sacramento could not afford to lose De'Aaron Fox for nothing. Now, if De'Aaron Fox made an All-NBA team this year, which is still a possibility, not sure if it's totally likely that it would happen, he would be eligible for a Supermax extension. So if he gets traded, he could be leaving a lot of money on the table to get out of Sacramento. But for Sacramento, they got to do what's in their best interest. Just a couple days ago, they were in rumors to go after guys like John Collins, Cam Johnson, or Kyle Kuzma at the deadline to try to go all in with the DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox core. And it really has been a crazy couple of years for Sacramento when they made that blockbuster deal at the 2022 trade deadline 3 years ago, where they sent Tyrese Haliburton to Indiana and they got back Domantas Sabonis. That seemed like a win-win trade. Sacramento made their first playoff appearance in almost 2 decades in the 2023 season when they were the 3 seed, but they did lose in round 1 to the Golden State Warriors. It was disappointing for them that they didn't make the playoffs last year, and then they made that big move, sending out a future first-round pick to San Antonio to take on Harrison Barnes' contract to help orchestrate DeMar DeRozan to Sacramento. So here we are right now, De'Aaron Fox, who is 27 years old. You're going to get him under contract for this playoff run and next year's playoff run before he would hit free agency. It reminds me a little bit of Donovan Mitchell, because a lot of people thought Donovan Mitchell could end up getting traded to the New York Knicks or the Miami Heat. And if he doesn't, he could force his way to one of those teams when he was going to be an eventual free agent. Cleveland had the assets. They kind of came out of nowhere and offered a very good deal to Utah, including multiple first-round picks, Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, and Donovan Mitchell made back-to-back playoff series, and the team was fully committed to Donovan Mitchell and building a team around him going forward. And he signed a 3-year extension in the offseason, where a lot of people thought he was going to be traded in the summer of 2024, and now he's part of this core going forward. So that could definitely happen with De'Aaron Fox. I wouldn't be too scared on trading for him, just because, like I said, you get him for 2 playoff runs this year and next year to try to convince him to stay long term. He could make a little bit more money re-signing with you than hitting the open market. And if you can't change his mind, you could always move him next year at the trade deadline. So yeah, the obvious team here, the San Antonio Spurs, pairing up De'Aaron Fox with Victor Wembanyama. As the San Antonio Spurs are 3 games under 500 right now, they are the 12th seed in the Western Conference, but they definitely have a very appealing package to Sacramento. Even if Sacramento doesn't want to go fully into a rebuild because they have DeMar DeRozan, they're paying Domantas Sabonis a lot of money, and they still have really good players on their team like Keon Ellis, Malik Monk, rookie Devin Carter. And in this De'Aaron Fox trade, you could probably get a team to take on Kevin Huerter's contract for this year and next year, which is looked at as a negative deal the way Huerter has been playing for the last 2 years. But San Antonio has some very nice assets, like I said, that they can offer Sacramento to get a deal done today. They have young guys like Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and Jeremy Sohan that can all be appealing to Sacramento in a De'Aaron Fox trade. I mentioned before how this reminds me a little bit of Donovan Mitchell. I think this could be a similar package in a way. Now, I'm sure San Antonio would not like to trade Stephon Castle, but if I'm Sacramento, that's one of the players that I would want coming back. And you could do some type of Devin Vassell, Stephon Castle, and 3 first-round pick package for De'Aaron Fox. And now Atlanta just lost Jalen Johnson for the rest of the year. San Antonio owns Atlanta's unprotected first-round pick, and they may slide in the Eastern Conference. That pick could be appealing to Sacramento in what is a top-heavy 2025 NBA draft. I'm not sure San Antonio would want to move Vassell and Castle for a player that could hit free agency in a year from now at the end of the 2026 season. So maybe it's Keldon Johnson that's involved. Maybe it's Jeremy Sohan. Maybe it's only one of those young pieces, and then it's matching salary like Zach Collins, Chris Paul, or maybe Harrison Barnes going back to Sacramento and a little bit more draft capital. But San Antonio has the foundation in place. They could pair up De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama, who's already a top 10 NBA talent in year number 2. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year at the end of the year. He may even end up on an All-NBA first team spot for a team that may not even make the playoffs. They can have that core going forward, as Fox is still just 27 years old. And even though you may give up a ton of assets in a trade, you're still going to be set up very well going forward because of the moves they've made throughout their rebuild. They have a good young core. They have a boatload of draft picks. San Antonio seems like the most likely destination for De'Aaron Fox. They were rumored to De'Aaron Fox when these rumors started to circulate last offseason, but the Houston Rockets could be a team that could go after De'Aaron Fox, as well as Fred VanVleet is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. The Rockets are not picking up his $40 million team option. They either have that or other matching salary to get this deal done at the deadline. And Houston, the way they're playing right now, they just beat Cleveland, Memphis, Boston. They could win the 2025 NBA championship. I think if they had De'Aaron Fox, they can definitely go toe-to-toe with the OKC Thunder in the playoffs that those two teams met in the Western Conference Finals. And the way Amen Thompson is playing right now, yeah, this team is legit. And yeah, Amen Thompson would not be on the table in this trade. I'm sure Sacramento would love to get Amen Thompson, but no, this isn't a Giannis Antetokounmpo or Kevin Durant type trade. Amen Thompson is going to stay with Houston. So if Sacramento is interested in some of the other young guys like Reed Shepherd, Cam Whitmore, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to get Jabari Smith Jr. in a trade here as well, but Houston definitely has some appealing picks to offer. They do have a couple Phoenix Suns picks going forward. I mean, we all thought that 2031 Suns pick was extremely valuable to Utah. They have some other first round picks that they can offer in this deal as well. I think Houston has a little bit more young talent to offer in terms of quantity that they could put in this trade. If it is Shepherd, Whitmore, Jabari Smith Jr., or something like that, Jalen Green could get moved in the offseason. So if this doesn't happen at the deadline, maybe Houston has a disappointing round 1 exit. They could revisit this trade idea if Fox isn't moved at the deadline, but it seems like Houston kind of wants to stay pat with their core right now. And Houston also needs to add a shooter because their 3-point percentage isn't great so far this year. So maybe Fox isn't the guy for them because he hasn't been the best 3-point shooter in his career. Now, another surprise team, which could be like the Cavs to Donovan Mitchell back in that summer of 2022. I mean, they have some shooting problems as well, but they can go all in with their young core in a weaker conference in the East. And that is the Orlando Magic, who have been one of the worst shooting teams in the NBA this year. Paolo has been hurt. Franz has been hurt. And I know De'Aaron Fox doesn't solve your shooting, but if you can somehow figure out this deal, which I think you can, without involving Jalen Suggs, yeah, you can go all in with Fox, Suggs, Franz Wagner, and Paolo Banchero. That is one of the best 4-4s you can get. Reminds me a little bit of what's going on in Cleveland because they were able to keep Donovan Mitchell there for another 3 years around Allen, Mobley, and Garland. And I think this young core is better than what those 3 guys were when they acquired Donovan Mitchell. You can easily get to the matching salary, either involving Jonathan Isaac, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony. It's a shame that Wendell Carter Jr. can't be put in this trade because he was recently signed at the end of the offseason, because I think Sacramento could see some value in turning around Wendell Carter Jr.'s trade value. That could be a possibility in the offseason, but I think the main young piece coming back to Sacramento would be Anthony Black, somebody they could develop over time. It still looked fairly highly in terms of value to opposing GMs, and Orlando owns all their first round picks going forward. They also own a swap between Phoenix in the 2026 season, so who knows where Phoenix could be next year. They also own a Denver Nuggets first round pick in this draft, and like I said, all their first round picks going forward as well. So they could offer 5 first round picks, some role players, Anthony Black as well, and then we can get De'Aaron Fox in Orlando, and they can go all in with this young core. But it would get a little bit expensive with Franz and Jalen Suggs contract extensions kicking in next next year and Paolo Banchero the year after that, and you have to re-sign De'Aaron Fox sooner than later. And I think one other likely team that could want De'Aaron Fox before we get into some dark horse candidates, the Miami Heat, will stay in the state of Florida because of the Bam Adebayo De'Aaron Fox connection. Both these two players played with each other at the University of Kentucky. We know that the Heat are going to be shuffling their core when a Jimmy Butler trade seems inevitable, and the way Tyler Hero is playing this year, like an all-NBA talent, Bam is a great defender, Kel'el Ware is breaking out. I think you could get some type of deal involved that could obviously have a bunch of teams that would maybe want Jimmy Butler. You can have some other assets going to Sacramento, because I don't think Sacramento would really want Jimmy Butler, but Miami does have some appealing young guys like Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez, Pele Larson, and they could move 2 first-round picks going forward. But I do think if Houston, San Antonio, and Orlando realistically want to go after De'Aaron Fox, they can definitely offer a better trade package than Miami if Tyler Hero or Kel'el Ware isn't on the table. Maybe they would put Kel'el Ware on the table, but they're not moving Hero. They would want a big 3 of Hero, Fox, and Bam. So I got 4 dark horse teams that I want to talk about, and I want you to let me know which dark horse team interests you the most in the comments below. All 4 of them in the Western Conference. First one is the Denver Nuggets. Now, they can't make this trade right now. This would have to be in the offseason, and this would basically be trying to do a Jamal Murray to De'Aaron Fox upgrade going forward, just because Fox is a little bit more reliable, and you can easily get to the matching salary. You also have some other young players you can put in this trade, like De'Ron Holmes or Julian Strawther, and Denver does have some future first-round picks that they can move down the line, most notably in 2031, which could be appealing to Sacramento. I think this one is a little bit more far-fetched. You could do Michael Porter Jr. for De'Aaron Fox right now, but I don't think Murray and Fox, although that would be cool, gets it done in the playoffs defensively in that backcourt. I don't think this would happen at the deadline. This would be more so in the offseason if they had a disappointing round 1 or round 2 exit. That's the Dallas Mavericks. Could the Dallas Mavericks try to get more aligned with the Luka Doncic timeline? Because Luka's 25, Fox is 27, Kyrie is 32 years old. Could they do some type of Kyrie for De'Aaron Fox swap, which allows Sacramento to still be a contending team right now with Kyrie, who's a all-star talent this year, still a phenomenal player, and you'd have Kyrie, DeRozan, and Sabonis still going all in with some other role players around them, and Dallas gets a younger point guard like De'Aaron Fox to pair up with Luka Doncic in that backcourt going forward. I think Dallas could definitely be a dark horse team if they're just trying to get more aligned with that Luka Doncic timeline. I think you got to include the Minnesota Timberwolves here. They are a second apron team right now, so they'd have to make some corresponding moves to get this deal done. Could Sacramento be interested in Jaden McDaniels or Julius Randle, who seems like the Wolves would like to move ahead of the deadline? Could Rob Dillingham be on the table? Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo? They definitely have some players that could get this deal done, and then you'd have De'Aaron Fox at 27 and Anthony Edwards at 23 in your backcourt for the next 5+ years. And the last team I want to talk about, I thought could be interesting just because De'Aaron Fox is from New Orleans. Now, I wish they didn't make that DeJounte Murray trade in the offseason, because they would have a ton of assets to go after Fox if they still had Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance, and those 2 first-round picks that they traded for DeJounte Murray still in their possession. But yeah, Fox being from NOLA, could Sacramento be interested in DeJounte Murray in a swap there, which can still help them contend? Or would they be interested in Brandon Ingram, and maybe Murray goes to a 3rd team or something like that? But I'd maybe be interested in Brandon Ingram if you have to move on from Fox. They're the same age, and yes, Ingram needs a contract at the end of the year, but I don't think they're too far apart in terms of value and what they could be in this league, especially with Brandon Ingram as a playmaking wing. So Sacramento would have to figure out a bunch of things, like, do they want Ingram and DeRozan? Would they want DeJounte Murray in a trade? And I do think New Orleans could use a little bit more shooting if Herb Jones, Zion, and Fox are all out there at the same time, as well as Yves Missi. But all I'm saying, though, I think they could be a dark horse team if they're serious about still winning now, especially if they're able to add a top 5 pick in this upcoming 2025 draft, which Sacramento could wait for just to see where teams end up in the lottery. San Antonio could be picking high. New Orleans could be picking high. Heck, Philadelphia could be picking high as well. What if Philadelphia gets number 2 and they offered number 2 in Paul George for De'Aaron Fox? I don't know. We can get crazy in the offseason, but I feel like if a deal is most likely right now, it could end up being San Antonio or maybe a dark horse team. You got to let me know which one down below. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Subscribe for NBA trade deadline content all week long. I will be live streaming the whole trade deadline for 4+ hours on Thursday, February 6th. So make sure you are subscribed with notifications on, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.